This is Brunei, a tiny country on a tiny island. But is it the royal family? It is anything but tiny. The Sultan of Brunei rules with Sharia law. Death by stoning for being gay. Whipping for drinking alcohol. Lose a hand if you steal. Sound extreme? That's the point. He says it's all about morality, purity, faith. But guess who didn't get the memo? His own brother, Prince Jeffrey, finance minister of Brunei, and the world's most chaotic royal playboy. He wasn't just rich, he was absurdly rich. And he spent like the oil was never going to run out. 2,000 luxury cars, a private jet with a golden toilet, yachts named Tits, Nipple 1 and Nipple 2. Yes, that's real. Google it. He made statues of himself, naked, in positions we legally can't describe here. He flew in beauty queens from all over the world. Not for charity, not for fashion week, for sex parties, secret royal sex parties, paid for by Brunei's government money. So while regular citizens were being told to live holy lives, Prince Jeffrey was literally throwing cash at naked statues of himself. Was this really about faith? Or was it all about control? Can you preach morality while partying on a yacht called Tits? The hypocrisy. Louder than his engine room. When the truth came out, it wasn't just embarrassing, it was explosive. It was one of the biggest royal scandals the world has ever seen. And the most twisted part? It all happened in one of the smallest countries on earth. So the question is, what happens when unlimited wealth meets unchecked power? Because in Brunei, the answer was chaos in a crown. Let's talk about the biggest house in the world. Nope, not in America. Not in Dubai either. Try Brunei. It's called Istana Nurul Iman. Sounds peaceful, right? Means Palace of the Light of Faith. But don't let the name fool you. This place, it's not a palace. It's a kingdom inside a kingdom. This is where the Sultan of Brunei lives. And it makes Buckingham Palace look like a guest house. How big is it? Over 2 million square feet. That's more than 24 football fields. Bigger than the Vatican. There are 1,788 rooms. Yes, 1,788. That's more rooms than the average town has homes. And 257 bathrooms. You could use a new bathroom every single day for over 8 months and never repeat. Need to cool off? The place has 5 swimming pools. Need to show off? There's a 110-car garage. And here's where it gets really wild. Over 200 polo horses live on the property. And their stables? Air-conditioned. Yeah, the horses get AC. Some people in Brunei don't even have hot water. The horses get cold air. The palace was finished in 1984, right on time for Brunei's independence. Because nothing says freedom like a billion-dollar fortress for one guy. Yep, it cost over $1 billion to build. And no, it's not just for show. Every year during Eid al-Fitr, the Sultan opens the doors. Tens of thousands of people come to shake his hand. And every guest walks away with a gift, sometimes even cash. Because that's normal, right? But the rest of the year, it's locked down. Only the royal family and staff are allowed inside. So, while regular people in Brunei go to work, follow the rules, and live modest lives, the Sultan chills in the world's biggest mansion with air-conditioned horses, golden ceilings, and hundreds of bathrooms to choose from. Is this really leadership or just royal cosplay with unlimited money? Is this about faith or flexing? Because one thing's clear, this isn't a house. It's a monument to excess. And in Brunei, excess has no limits. The royal family of Brunei doesn't just own cars. They own a car kingdom. How big are we talking? Over 7,000 cars. Yes, 7,000. That's not a typo. That's not a flex. That's straight up madness. Total value? Over $5 billion. That's more than some countries spend on everything. Let's break it down. They've got 500 Rolls Royces. Let that number settle in. That's more than the entire British royal family. And then 300 Ferraris. Most people dream of seeing one. They own hundreds. Some are so rare, they were built just for them. The Ferrari FX, a one-of-a-kind model, never sold to the public. The Bentley Dominator, an SUV that exists for one person. The Sultan. How about the world's first right-hand drive, Bugatti EB110? Of course, they had that too. And wait for it. They also requested gold-plated custom cars, just to sit in garages. Not to drive, not to race, just to exist. Because in Brunei, cars aren't transportation. They're trophies and toys. And the biggest kid in the garage, Prince Jeffrey. He once spent over $900 million on cars. No roads, not dealerships, just cars. But here's the punchline. Most of these cars, they're not driven. They're not maintained. They're rotting, covered in dust, locked away in massive warehouses, like a billionaire's junkyard. Some have flat tires. Some are missing parts. Many have dead engines. Because when you own thousands of supercars, you can't drive them all. You forget they even exist. So, while most people work their whole lives to afford one nice car, Brunei's royals own thousands, and they don't even look at them. Is this wealth, or waste, luxury, or lunacy? Because at some point, a $5 billion car collection that just sits there, it isn't a flex. It's a warning. Now, let's talk about Prince Jeffrey, the Sultan's younger brother, and possibly the most chaotic royal alive. For years, he was Brunei's finance minister, in charge of the country's entire money system. And somehow, during his time, $14 billion went missing. Oops. The government says he stole it. Jeffrey says it was all approved. Sure, by who? Himself? But while the lawyers argued, Jeffrey spent money like it was a video game cheat code. Private jets, mansions across the globe, a palace in Beverly Hills, dozens of luxury hotels and businesses. He didn't invest, he splashed. And what did he buy most? Cars. Over 2,000 of them. Because one Bugatti just isn't enough. Yachts. Not just yachts. One was literally called Tits, with two smaller speedboats named, wait for it, Nipple 1 and Nipple 2. No, we're not making this up. Yes, this is real history. He hosted parties that made Coachella look like a school picnic. The guest list, supermodels, celebrities, other royals. Reports say the scenes looked like movie sets, except everything was real gold. The music, loud, the dancers, everywhere. The cost, don't ask. He also dropped millions on jewelry, not just for women, for himself. Why not sparkle while you burn through billions? Some of the women paid to stay with him, others just there for the chaos. And then it gets weirder. One of his ex-employees said Jeffrey had statues made of himself. Naked, yes. Nude statues, yes. Plural. Because if you're gonna flex, why not go full Roman emperor? But then, in 2000, the party hit a wall. The Brunei government took him to court. They said, "You stole billions from the country's sovereign wealth fund." Jeffrey said, "Nah, I was just spending it." The case dragged on for years. They seized some of his homes, confiscated some of his things. But here's the real kicker. He's still rich, still royal, still living in massive luxury. In Brunei, some still respect him. Others blame him for draining the country's wealth. But everyone agrees on one thing. He didn't just burn money. He launched it into orbit. Wilder than a rock star, richer than most kings, and untouchable the whole way through. So here's the question. Was he a prince or just a billionaire with a passport and no rules? Because when absolute power meets unlimited wealth, statues, yachts, and scandals are only the beginning. Let's be clear. Prince Jeffrey wasn't just wasting money. He was collecting scandals like luxury watches, not just financial mess-ups. We're talking sex, lawsuits, and international drama. And not one or two cases. Try over 40 legal battles. Yes, 40. Some were about broken business deals, but many were about something way darker. Let's rewind to the late 1990s. Several women, including models, say they were tricked. They were invited to Brunei for jobs or vacations. Sounds nice, right? Until they got there and found out the real plan was to spend time with Prince Jeffrey. Some said they were paid companions. Others, they said they never agreed to what happened. The most famous case? Shannon Marketic, a former Miss USA. She said she was taken to Brunei with other women. They thought it was a modeling gig. Turns out, not even close. Shannon said they were trapped, not allowed to leave, used as entertainment for the prince and his crew. She called it what it was, sex slavery. She sued in the US in 1997, but the case got tossed. Why? Because Prince Jeffrey had diplomatic immunity. Translation: you can't touch me. I'm royal. The case was dropped. But the headlines? They blew up around the world. And that wasn't the only thing getting exposed. There were rumors of a private garden in Brunei, filled with statues of Jeffrey and women, in poses so explicit, we literally can't describe them here. Yes, statues of himself, doing things. Photos of these leaked. People were horrified, and also kind of speechless. But wait, it gets worse. Former workers sued him too. Some said they were forced to do jobs they didn't agree to. Others said they were never paid. A few said they were suddenly fired after the fun was over. Jeffrey denied most of it, but he also settled some of those lawsuits with cash. That means he paid to make the problem disappear. So let's ask the obvious. Was he protected by the law or just protected by money? Because for years, while people were pointing fingers, Jeffrey was still living large, still untouchable, still royal. And right when the world thought things couldn't get more hypocritical, 2019 happened. That year, Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah, Jeffrey's older brother, made an announcement. Brunei would enforce new Sharia laws, not regular laws, extreme ones. What is the punishment for being gay or cheating on your spouse? Death by stoning. Caught with alcohol. You get whipped. Steal something? Goodbye. Hand. Let that sink in. And now remember, this is coming from the same royal family throwing parties on a yacht called Tits. So people started asking, was this really about faith or just about control? Can you preach morality while buying golden toilets and nude statues of yourself? The world wasn't quiet. Celebrities protested. Hotels were boycotted. Big names like the Beverly Hills Hotel and Hotel Bel Air started losing business because people found out they were owned by Brunei's royal family. The backlash got so big, the Sultan had to respond. He said, "Don't worry, we won't actually use the death penalty." So wait, you passed a law threatening people with stoning. Just for show? What was the point then? Power? Fear? A distraction? Because one thing was clear. Strict rules were for the people, but not for the palace. And if you thought that was the final twist, think again. In 2023, Princess Azima, the Sultan's daughter, got married. Guess who the groom was? Prince Bahar, her first cousin. Also, Prince Jeffrey's son. Let's pause. So, the Sultan makes laws about moral behavior, and his daughter marries her uncle's son? Even some of Brunei's own citizens were like, wait, what? Yes, cousin marriages are legal in royal families. But in 2023, it still raises a lot of eyebrows. But let's get back to Jeffrey. He once owned dozens of homes in London, Paris, and New York. We're talking about hundreds of millions in real estate. But after years of lawsuits, court said, that money wasn't yours. Why? Because the cash came from Brunei's investment fund, aka the people's money, and it wasn't used properly. So one by one, the mansions vanished. Not from thin air, from repossession. A prince who once had gold-covered bathrooms was now giving the keys back. Still royal, still rich, but a lot less untouchable. And what about Brunei itself? It's rich, super rich. Oil and gas pay the bills. Real estate around the world boosts the bank account. But its human rights record? Under fire. The United Nations has asked Brunei to cut the harsh laws, to stop jailing or hurting people for who they love or what they believe. But the laws? Still there. And the royal family? Still flying private. Still partying. Still dripping in diamonds. So let's sum it up. A country with strict rules for the people and no rules for the palace. A prince who used public money to fund private pleasure. A sultan who promotes religion, while his family lives like it's Vegas every day. Can you claim holiness while buying yachts named Nipple 1 and Nipple 2? Can you demand purity when your palace throws the wildest parties on earth? Or is this just what happens? When does absolute power meet unlimited wealth?